now that it gets interesting. All right, so let me make this bigger. Okay, so the goal of today is just to tell you about SageMathCloud, which is this website, which we'll be using a lot for the course. So it's a website that I launched in April 2013, a couple of years ago. I was going to teach this very course then, and I wanted to make it possible to teach a whole bunch of topics without students having to install Sage and LaTeX and all these other programs on their own computers, so that everybody would have a very level playing field. And I was really tired of all of the, endless like submit your assignment by emailing it to this address and getting it back and then debugging, installing Sage and LaTeX and so on. So I wrote the first version in a couple of weeks during spring break a couple of years ago. And it just ran like on a desktop in my office, and it was extremely buggy, but we made it through the class. And then I taught the class again in 2014 using it, and then in 2015 I spent the year on sabbatical and worked on writing SMC full-time. And also some UW undergrads helped a lot with writing and rewriting SageMathCloud. For example, Jonathan Lee, who's right there, and John Jing, who you got right there. So they both worked on the code behind the scenes. So what does SageMathCloud now do? By the way, in case you're interested in open source, this being a course about open source math software, SageMathCloud, which is this web application, is also open source. It's not a closed source web application. So what does it do? It lets you, this website makes it so that in your web browser you can run Sage, either on the command line or via worksheets. You can also just write Python programs and run those. You can use R either via the command line in Sage worksheets or in Jupyter notebooks. So there are a couple of different ways to use R through this website. You can write LaTeX documents. LaTeX is a typesetting system for mathematics and physics and so on, for writing very professional looking documents. You can use Jupyter notebooks. You can use terminals. So these are command line terminals, like the terminal program on a Mac or something, or like when you connect to a remote computer, that sort of terminal. Each SageMathCloud project under the hood is a Linux account on a remote server running at Google. You can edit files really in almost any open source language and compile and run the code. So you can write Java programs, C, C++, Fortran, etc. However, if those programs use graphics that require running locally on your desktop, they won't work. They're just not going to appear. Unless you can do some stuff to make them work, but it's kind of slow. But at least you can run command line programs. There's some pretty sophisticated to-do list functionality, and there's also chat rooms. And whenever you're running any of these things, you can collaboratively edit them with other people. So you can work like even with the terminals, you can see what another person's typing into a terminal. You have multiple people with terminals open at once and stuff like that. Also, there's course management. If you're ever going to run a workshop and you want to use some software, you might find that useful. Or teaching a course, it's useful. So what we're going to do today is just a tutorial in which you'll see how to do a bunch of the things that I listed above. Okay? So hopefully everybody has their laptop or something. Almost everybody does. If you don't, look at the laptop of the person next to you. So that's only like 3 people, okay? So here's what we're going to do. You're going to open your project related to the course, and I should have a sense of whether you opened it because here's everybody in the course, and I can see like little times. So for example, Duda Feng, are you here? You haven't opened your project, but maybe you're not here. That's why you haven't opened your project. Whereas Quan Nguyen, you've opened your project. Good. And you did something 5 minutes ago. Okay, so the first thing to do is to create a folder named Scratch. Okay, and I'll show you how to do that. Click on the button labeled New right there. And actually, make sure you're in the home directory. And then click on New or New. You can click on either one. And then type the word Scratch right there. And make sure it says home directory right at the top, and then Scratch, and then you just click on folder, And when you click on that button, it will then create the folder and put you there. Okay. Yes? Your files are read-only. So what she did, what's your name? William? Okay. What William did was she opened the, I think you opened the, so there's some of the files are, of course, like my project, the one I'm running up here, that's what you've opened. You haven't opened your own project. So, so my project is named Math 480-2016, and I've made files in my project publicly available so anyone can look at them, but you can't edit them. They're read-only for you. You'll have your own project that'll have your name at the front of it. And most of you have that. And so if you see how you got this project right here, just click on that, and then you'll find that you get your own project, and it's not read-only. Okay? Is anybody else having trouble making a folder called Scratch? Raise your hand if you successfully made a folder named Scratch. Raise your hand if you have not successfully made a folder named Scratch, but you have your laptop. Jonathan, help her make a folder named Scratch. And other John, help anybody else. Help the other guy. So. All right, so I haven't done it yet, so I will do it. I click the folder, and now I have a new folder called Scratch. Okay? And now what we're going to do is create a file in here by just clicking the big button right there. And that just brings us back to the same screen. And now for starters, let's make a, see in my tutorial I suggested making a text file. So that's what I'll do. Go back there, Scratch. Hey, oh. It is loading slowly. Okay, so I'm going to make a file. I'll just end it with .txt. So I just type at the end. The other thing you can do is click here on this dropdown and then find .txt. And then you just click File, and it will create the file. Or you can hit Enter. And then you'll have a new file, and it should load it, and then you should see the file. And then you can just start typing stuff like that. Okay, so that's the goal, to just make a file that ends in .txt. And you can either get it from the dropdown or just type .txt at the end.
Oh, so if you just do the .txt,
Yep.
you can just press the
Yep.
file and be done.
Yep. So the goal now is just to make a new blank file and hit some random keys and see what happens. Okay, let's see lots of files.
Sorry.
Okay, if you're having any trouble making a blank file, raise your hand. Just you can just click file and find text is like big that way.
For some reason it doesn't know how long ago this was. It's not a number.
The moment you should have a text file. Should be way down. There it is. Alright, so now that you have your text file, type some random characters, just whatever you want in there, and then I don't know. And then click on the button labeled time travel, and what it should do is pop up another tab. Notice that you have I have 4 tabs across the top. I'm going to close this one. And this one has a little slider. And it shouldn't have very much in it because you haven't done very much. But if you go back to your text file and type a little more random stuff in there, then you'll see that new things get added. And you can slide the slider and go back and forth to see how your file has evolved over time. So to get to this again, you just click on time travel. It's the blue button right there. And it makes another tab which has the history of your editing of the file. And you can also just click open file to switch back. So they're completely, you can think of them as being independent. It's like you have 2 different files. One is the file you're editing, and the other is the history of editing that file. Yes?
What constitutes one step in the time travel?
As you're typing along, if you pause for a moment, I think it's about 1.5 seconds, then it records from when you started typing until you've paused for about 1.5 seconds. So if you took this mouse and held it down the keyboard for a while, it wouldn't record any edits until you take the mouse off. So it's like a complete edit with a slight pause. Okay. So you can see I now have 10. It has the time when the edit happened, the person that made the edit, and okay, the next thing let's do is go to settings and add another person to your project. So the way you do that, so the way I got here is I clicked on settings, and it says add collaborator. Just like turn to the person to your right or left and add them as a collaborator. So what you'll do is you'll type in their email address and add them. Typing exactly that will, in about a week, give you a little dialogue as you create the folder, which is what John James is with the TA, he wrote that. So it'd be really awesome just what you right now, though, you have to click on new. Click on the new button. Mess it up like that. Click on the new button, and then just delete that type scratch. And then click on folder. Type scratch. And then click on folder. There you go. So, now make a text file. It's like something great. And then you can put TXT at the end. So just hit enter. Now add somebody as a
There we go.
So when you add somebody as a collaborator, if they start editing this text file that you created, then you should see their cursor while they're editing. And also in the log, their name should be different. Okay? So that's a way to kind of test it out. And you can also easily remove that person as a collaborator if you want to, like a Cricut house. Okay, so is anybody having trouble adding a collaborator? Okay. And it's easiest to add by email address.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. Never mind, I just
Oh, yeah.
You have to click. You have to, after you type the person's name, you have to click on it and then click invite. So you have to select the person, then click invite.
Josh. There we go.
It took too long. So now we usually click your name and then click invite as your and you can click on files.
Okay, I see.
You'll see the cursor.
I had that.
So, is anybody having trouble adding somebody as a collaborator? You are?
How can you find like
Type in their email address, that's the easiest way.
Oh no, as how you access.
Oh, click, once you've been added to somebody else's project, click on projects, and you'll see that their project is now added to the list of projects. So for example, I've been added to like 400 projects. You'll probably have like 2 or 3. So once you do that, you'll see their project. You can click on it and then open it, and it will just appear in another tab right here. And then what you can do is, if you start typing, you'll see like your cursor will appear in their file. You can also easily open their file by clicking on log. You'll see in the log, what you'll see is every file anybody's opened in that project. And it makes it easy to sort of very quickly find a recently opened file. Okay. And then once you start editing, and what the heck? Why does that say connecting? That's not good. Okay, so once you open the file, you can start editing. And one thing is that your cursor will have a color, and that color is determined here. So if you click on your name and then go down, you can change the color by just going over this thing and clicking a different color. It defaults to gray, but you probably want a different color than gray. Okay? And then this color selector, by the way, after looking at like 20 different color selectors, Travis Scholl, who's a grad student here, wrote this one from scratch. It's kind of nice and quick and easy to use. You just click, boom, you get a color. Okay, so also, again, if you click on time travel or look at your like slider, you'll see that the other person's edits have a different name than your edits. Okay, so let's see. If I look here in the log, hey, Jane, can you open this text file of mine and then just type something random? Going crazy? Just go to the log and open it there. Well, okay, yeah, so John just opened the text file. And then you can see there's a little picture of him right here. You can add a picture if you want by configuring a gravatar. And then he's typing and you can see his cursor. And also if I go to the history, you can see that his name is associated with certain edits. Okay? All right, any questions? Yes?
So with like time travel, is there a way to like save an old version of a file under a new name? Something like that?
Well, what you can do is, in most cases, you can just do select all, copy, and then paste.
Sure.
There's no button, though, that copies a particular version to another file yet. But maybe there will be in a week. It's high on my list to add that. Let's see, what else? Oh, there's a chat. So if you click on that little like chat icon, then you can type something like hello. I think I showed you this on Monday. There's video chat, which is kind of flaky. Oh, I just ended the video chat. Let's see. Let's see if it works. This page is accessing your camera. It is not working currently. Our current plan with the video chat is to disable it because it doesn't seem to work very well lately. You can hear me? Wow. Oh, You see me? Oh, okay. Ah. Hey. I guess it does work. Cool. So yeah, there's video chat in there. But I had to open and close this icon. Let's see. All right, I'm going to end that. But that's nice that that worked. Oops, let me start it again. I need to. Okay. All right, so that's the, let's see. This is the most basic editor, but just some other things to show you. There's also a split view in two different directions. So this icon right here, kind of right in the middle, it lets you view two different points of the document at once, which can be handy for certain types of documents. So down here, I'm looking at I can edit like down here, and I can edit up here kind of at the same time. And you see that it's the same in both places. This is useful when you're working on code because you'll have some code up there that you want to look at while you're working on some code down here. Of course, you can also just open the page in two different browsers, but this is another way. If you click it, what?
How do you do that?
You just click this, there's a button in the middle which looks like you're splitting, and you click on it and then it will split it. And if you click it again, it splits it vertically instead of horizontally, like this. Or I guess, well, it splits it so that the line is vertical. And if you click it one more time, the splitting goes away. And if you open and close the document, it'll come back with exactly the same sort of splitting that you had before. And this works for lots of different file types, as we'll see. And you can adjust the font separately. So you can change how big the letters are using these little increase and decrease buttons. So you can make the font down here really small and the font up here really big and stuff like that. Okay, so there's that. All right, somebody else there. All right, so now the next thing we're going to do is just make some other file types. Oh, yes?
How come like over the chat some of the our icons like are grayed out? I can't see that after the chat video.
Right here?
No, up where your picture is.
Yeah.
How come some of the icons are grayed out?
Let me look. The icon for the person will get grayer and grayer over, it'll like fade out over 10 minutes. So it could just be that the person only started looking at it and then stopped. And then once they do stuff, it'll be, yeah. So it slowly grays out over 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. And if the person changes their color in account settings, then it will change to that color.
Okay.
So this is, of course, the most boring file type. There's lots and lots of other file types. So let's try creating some other types of files. So to do that, just click the New button. And you'll see this. And you can choose a name, but just the default is the current time, which is fine. We're just going to make a bunch of random files in the Scratch directory. That's all. So wow, I have a lot of notifications. Oh, so here's the way the notifications work. If anybody who I collaborate with chats, then I get a notification about that. So 15 of you probably chatted who were working with a project that I created for you. So that's why that's a large number. And this is, of course, very much stressing my browser since I have hundreds of projects and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so so last time we did this a little bit, but let's make a whole bunch of different files. So let's maybe do a terminal next, okay? So click New and then click on Terminal. So I'm curious, how many people here have ever used a command line terminal before? Okay, so like half. Cool. Well, in about 5 minutes, or in about 1 minute, everyone will have raised their hand next time they're asked that question. So what you should see when you click on terminal is ~/scratch, this banner, and then a little terminal blinking there, like a little cursor blinking there. Okay? So is it working?
You just create a .term file.
Yep. And by the way, since you added a collaborator to your project, if they open, they'll see this. If they open the .term file, they'll see the same thing. And the first thing that you'll do is you'll type the command to list the files in the current directory. And that command is ls, which is an abbreviation for list. And then when you hit enter, what it will do is show you all the files you've created in that directory. And the moment you've typed ls and then hit enter, you've then used a command line terminal on a remote Linux system. Okay? So do it. Just list the files. Pretty easy. You can also type ls and then a space -l, and that will show you more information. So it's a little funner, I guess. ls space -l. And if you're bored, maybe try that link. You probably have to copy paste it, and then you can try some more commands. But you could do an enormous amount through the command line terminal, like compile code and run it. And you can do things like type capital R to run R, like Python to run the Python command, etc. Cool. Yep, every command works. And there's a lot there. That's not working because the file gets wrong. You can use tab completion, so type the first few letters and then hit the tab.
Okay, now I once are replaced, and I have a set.
You hit tab twice, it'll show you all the options.
Let's do
Just so then, forward and then tab. Yep, boom. There, 2 lines. And if you're like a, I don't know, if you use VI or Emacs or something, you can use those here. One of those people. Okay, any questions? And again, I want to emphasize, so Jane, can you open this terminal on your computer? So he's going to type something and I'll see it here. So he opens it in a moment. It doesn't show the space yet, and it doesn't have a chat, but it will. So I've got that. So now he's typing, and I can see it. So you can collaboratively use these terminals with other people. In case maybe you've never used a terminal before and you can't remember, can't figure out how to do something, it's nice that you can sort of watch somebody else doing it. Okay? And there's a lot of little commands like ls and touch and so on that are very efficient for doing certain things in a terminal. Yes?
Is there any problem like with creating a new file like through this interface versus like through the?
That's a great question, and the answer is no, for the most part. So if I click on Files now, and then get a listing, clearly something is not working very well. I'm going to actually refresh this. So notice new file which he created is here, and I'll open new file here for interactive editing graphically, and I'll type something, and then I'll save that. What save does, so when you type, it is actually saving all your changes to a database, but it's not saving them to disk, except when, and there's an autosave feature. You can configure it right here. Mine's set to 30 seconds. Every 30 seconds, it'll go through and try to save all the files to disk. But in any case, if I click Save, now it's saved to disk. And I can go over here, and there's a command, cat new file, that will show you the contents of the file. Okay? And now another thing I could do is I can open it in an editor, which I'll do, and I can edit it here, and then I can save the changes. And if I look back here, the changes appear. So what SageMathCloud does is it watches files on disk for changes, and when they change, it instantly notices that they change and then updates the editor here to reflect those changes. Okay? So that's kind of useful. Okay, so let's just make another file type. So we made a terminal. How about, let's see, how about a LaTeX document? Okay, so click on LaTeX document, and then what you'll see, I don't know, how many of you have written, remember we're going to spend a whole week on this, I'm not assuming you've ever done it before, but who's written LaTeX documents before? Okay, a couple people. LaTeX is a system that lets you write documents. It's in a sense, it's a competitor to Microsoft Word, though it was, of course, started way before Microsoft Word. And it produces documents whose quality is extremely high. It's very easy to do things like cross-referencing. It's powerful, but it's it's meant to be kind of a professional tool rather than something for everybody to use. And therefore, it's a little bit more technical and difficult. It's also a programming language to some extent. Like you can write very sophisticated programs in tech or in LaTeX. So just to test it out, after you've created a LaTeX document, put your cursor somehow here, like above end document and write hello, or whatever you want. Just write something there. And then click the Save button. And what it does when you do that is it compiles the program on the left, which produces the document on the right, which you see over there. And just to give you a little tiny sense of the power of LaTeX, if you put $signs, like double $signs actually, and then put something like x cubed plus, I don't know, \pi, and then click on Save, you should see that in a moment, a formula gets typeset. And the formula looks beautiful. Like the spacing's really, really nice, and so on. So see right there. Okay, so doing a little bit of LaTeX editing. Just try it out and type something. You can change the title by going up where it says \title of document. So you set various things up there. And then whenever you save, it updates the output. And again, we're going to spend a whole week on how to use this later on. Your goal now is simply to just do anything at all successfully. It isn't opening. Oh. Yeah. No, but the orange ones you're not connected. So if you click on it, of course it's already connected. Yeah, click on that and then click on reconnect. Oh, now I'm sure. But I have to close it. It uses the current day in England. So it's right now. You can set the date explicitly by \date and put something in braces. It's really weird that it. Sure. Oh, there it is. Great. Oh, look, you even have an issue of settings. So if you click there is a mistake in the line, and that's that you forgot the $signs. And so you can fix it. And then, yep, just put $signs around now. Okay, and then click on Save. Click on Preview. And let's see the preview. There it is. Cool. Yes. Yep. I think double backslash. Yeah. It's extremely. Yeah, you should be able to copy it. Okay, and oh, that's fun. You make the screen a little wider. Yeah, sorry about that. And then if you put a backslash before square root, and then change the parentheses to braces, and it will work correctly. A big square sign exactly goes over these things. Try that out. There it is. How do I get it? Put braces or from like after the caret to after we'll put the entire thing up. If you want to see what that error comes from, you can run the button. So it will tell you that double superscript. So to fix that, it's because you have to put braces and kind of like braces to get disambiguated. So like maybe you're because do you mean 3 to the 4 to the 5 or do you mean 3 to the 4 to the 5? It doesn't like disambiguate automatically. Put them like you could put them somewhere. I don't know. Yeah, put them. You have to either way. I think after, like after, put a brace starting after, and then maybe it look very. So what do you mean by either way? Like after the 4 now. might need another brace before this 3 hours. Okay, you save, and then click on preview. That'll be during the week on logic.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff, but double backslash will give you might help. Or you can just make a whole new dollars. You can do a huge amount like vertically aligned stuff on certain characters. So on. Thank you. Yep. All right, let's. One more question. Yeah.
Yeah, is there a way to force like it to? Okay, well, it takes a few seconds. Is there a way to force it?
Whenever you save, but for some reason your save button is missing. All the issues. Save. Oh, the media is Chrome. Yeah. I don't know if that's on Edge.
Chrome is the.
Yeah, Chrome is the best supported. Chrome and Firefox are both very well supported for SMC. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is create a Sage worksheet, which is of course very exciting. So it's just the same drill. You click New, and then you click choose a file name, and then click Worksheet. Okay. And wait a little bit, and then it will open it. It will open it. There it is. So click New, and then click on SageMath Worksheet to create a new worksheet. But this is it looks like a text file at first, but there's more buttons at the top. And this is very different because you can type in expressions and little programs and then hit Shift-Enter and they get run. So it's actually super powerful. But a first thing to try is 2 plus 3 and then just hit Shift-Enter. The very first time you do it, it might take about 10 seconds because it has to start up a copy of this big program called Sage running. But once you've done it once, then it will stay fast for the rest of your session. And also other worksheets will start up very quickly as well. But your goal right now is simply to type 2 plus 3 and then Shift-Enter. And if you do that, you can try some of these drop-down menus at the top. This is something you did already on Monday, but you might want to try some more. Okay? So, oh, by the way, if you're using LaTeX still, one cool thing you can do is anything you make in Sage, like 1 over sine of x plus, I don't know, e to the power of x. If you do something like that, it will spit out the LaTeX to typeset that formula. If you say LaTeX, you type it as math into Sage, and it gives you back the LaTeX codes that you would put between dollar signs. So just in case you want to make something and then paste it into the LaTeX document, you can do it that way. Okay, so try making a Sage worksheet and then just trying out a few things in it. And again, with all of these things that we're editing, like LaTeX documents, you always have the history slider and split view and so on. Collaboration, you can add other people, etc. Just type something and Shift-Enter. Yep, worked. You can go back and edit things. If you've ever used R in a course, if you just start a cell with %R, you just type %R right at the beginning, then in the rest of that cell you can write code in R instead of Sage. Or Python. Since I know people use R a little bit. So watch, if you just do %R, and now you can do something using R. See? And there's a whole bunch of different % things that you can do.
So is there like a way to delimit like when you're done with R code?
It's just at the end of the cell. So
Okay, yeah.
it goes from the start to the end of the cell. Did you try copying and pasting that into your LaTeX document? So the copy paste is a little hard span, so you have to copy like starting right on a character. It's really stupid. And be sure to put dollar signs. Oh, that's interesting. Well, it simplifies the expression to 0, and then it logics 0. So it always simplifies this. So if you give it, you give it
just write out our code.
simplify. I mean, inside of parentheses. This three. So, E. Like, yeah, inside of there. That's exciting. Cool.
Yeah. So when you
You can just try it. You can try one of these videos. It just runs that through. Yes.
Oh, you're voting for
Yep. Maybe and the double dollar. So it's like you really want two separate formulas. So put double dollar signs in the first formula, and then start the next formula. Okay, now try that. Yep, that looks all better. Any other questions? All right. Yes. So did you type shift enter? That's all you have to do. Either shift enter or run. Oh, it's not run. It should take a little while the first time when it starts up Sage. It shouldn't take that long. How about let's start. Okay, now it's working. Okay, so sometimes if a worksheet gets really messed up, or you start something running, or you accidentally make an infinite loop and delete it and forget about it, if you click the stop button, that'll try to kill whatever's happening. It's like kind of hitting Control C or interrupt. And I'll just show you an example of that. I'll use an amazing command sleep, which is going to sit there for 100 seconds and do nothing. Okay, that's kind of boring, but while it's running, nothing else is going to run. It just sits there with a red bar waiting to run. So what you can do is click stop, and that will interrupt what the green bar is running. So see how it interrupted it? And now I can run the other code. The second thing is maybe stop just isn't working. It just seems really messed up. You can click restart, and that just kills the underlying process and makes a new one. So you don't see a traceback because it just killed the process. And that should work in great generality. Okay. All right, let's see. So the other file types, there's a to-do list. And, oh, yes?
So will those two run simultaneously then?
No. It'll only run one thing at a time. So if you do like 2 plus 5, and then you make another cell that's 10 plus 7, you can make them both run by, say, for example, you can highlight both of them and hit Shift Enter, and it will run both of them, but it runs one after the other, not at the same time. By the way, you can also make multiple cursors by Control clicking or Command clicking. So you can do like that. See, I'm typing in 2 places at once. So that can be kind of handy. So it's Control or Command click, depending on if you're on a Mac or a PC. And then when you have 2 cursors, you can hit Shift Enter, and then they both get run as well. So little handy thing. Okay, so if I type new, there's some other file types. One is a task list. It's just a to-do list, which you might find useful. Like, for example, do the homework that is due on April 1st, Friday. And you could do things like set a due date, and so on. Another thing you can do. So notice, by the way, that the little word new next to the icon disappeared. If you open a whole bunch of files, the words next to the icons disappear. All right, we'll continue on Friday with more about how to use SageMathCloud. And then next week, we're going to talk a lot about how to use Python. Here. Yes? I clicked new, and then I made a task list, which is just a to-do list.
Hey, I'm the student who emailed you.
Yeah.
And I checked with you the math advising, and they say it's up to your discretion.
Okay. What's your name again?
Francis Wilson.
Okay. And you want to take the class?
Very
And you
much
have-
so.
Okay.
Got
Send me
all
an
the
email
correct.
again
Okay.
afterwards, and then I can give you an ad code.
Perfect. Thank you
because
very
there's
much.
Somewhere to sit. Yep.
All right.
Hello.
Hi.
I have a real quick question.
Sure.
So on the homework, I've seemed to like delete one of the problems. So
Mhm.
like question 4.
Yes.
For some reason, it's like showing up like that.
Okay.
So I don't know, like if I just like delete this, will
Oh,
like that
you could,
delete this part?
You
of
could
it?
double click on this and it'll hide the input. and then
Oh,
you're fine.
okay.
Yeah.
And then, how do I like make one of these? Like the green things are
Yep.
different because I somehow deleted it with like the benevolent dictator.
Okay.
Like it's in my history, so I can
Sure.
like find it. With, like,
So what you do is
guys.
if you put %MD at the beginning, just like %R, if you put %MD, it stands for markdown. Then you can type stuff and then hit Shift Enter, and then the input gets hidden, and you only see the output. And you can double click on the output to show the input again.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Great.
just like
Thank
you did on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi.
Hey.
Oh, let me stop this.